Was he or wasn't he? The prosecution and defense spar over whether Whitey Bulger was an informant for the FBI. Plus, journalism in the digital age. Dan Kennedy shines a spotlight on a small online operation that's reinventing local news. And going Dutch.
In this gallery alone, there are 7 Rembrandts.
The MFA reopens its Dutch gallery this week. Jared Bone explains why the timing couldn't be better. Now on Greater Boston. Good evening. The trial of James Whitey Bulger started with a bang today as defense attorney J.W. Carney asked the judge to let him speak to the media outside of the courtroom. After that, Bulger's 700-page FBI file took center stage, and it undercut Bulger's romantic image of himself. Adam Reilly has more.
Only one person took the stand in the Whitey Bulger trial today, James Marra, a Department of Justice agent who summarized Bulger's enormous FBI file in numbing detail. That file paints Bulger as a snitch who dished to his FBI handlers about nearly everyone, from the Mafia to rival criminals in his own South Boston neighborhood. It also cast Bulger as cocky, reportedly saying that if word got out that he was an informant, no one would believe it because it's too incredible. The defense rejects the informant label, saying Bulger paid for information and protection, but gave the government nothing of value in return. But today's testimony sheds serious doubt on that claim.
And Adam Reilly is here. Well, first of all, explain what J.W. Carney was asking the judge to allow him to do.
What he wants is to be able to speak as freely as he desires to the media outside of court. This came up, you'll recall, in a pretrial conference right before testimony kicked off. The government said that Carney was, trying to make an end run around the court, essentially, by pleading Bulger's case in the court of public opinion. At the time, a couple of weeks back, Carney agreed to adhere to this local rule, which strictly circumscribes what attorneys can and can't say when they're speaking out of court. But now, for whatever reason, he's pushing back very aggressively against that constraint, saying that Bulger's name and reputation are being dragged through the mud in the media again and again, and that it's a violation of his own and Bulger's own free speech rights to not be able to sort of work to counter that in press conferences outside the trial. Now, I have to say, as someone who's been at this trial most, not all days, it would be a lot more interesting to cover if J.W. Carney could speak as expansively as he wants about what's been going on and why he thinks Bulger isn't getting a fair shake. But Judge Denise Casper didn't issue a ruling today. My hunch is that she's not going to go along with what Carney is requesting, because if she does, she'll be saying that this local rule that governs what all attorneys can and can't do doesn't apply to him. My hunch is she won't do it, and he said that he's going to go right to an appellate court if she doesn't.
I don't even know why
request.
he wants to do it. It seems to me to be undermining.
Well, it's all about Bulger's legacy.
I know,
that's what the defense is in this for, is to show he wasn't as bad a guy.
He should have a spokesperson do it for him.
That's
anyway,
true.
So we were hoping that former FBI agent John Morris was going to take the stand today and talk about his relationship with Whitey Bulger and the Mafia. He was one of the people who admittedly took money from Whitey Bulger for various and sundry things.
And got immunity.
Yeah, got immunity for it.
Yeah,
he's not in jail like John Connolly. So you said that there was this other file that was presented that sounded fairly tedious.
It's interesting because the testimony today definitely was not as inherently dramatic as John Morris's will be when he takes the stand, because it really does seem like, whatever you think about the particulars of this case, kind of like a miscarriage of justice, that John Connolly is the one guy who really took the fall hard when there were so many other people in the FBI and elsewhere who were enabling Bulger. But that being said, today's testimony, it actually mattered a lot. It was just delivered in a really, really dry manner, and there was so much of it.
How was Sleepy Juror doing?
Sleepy Juror was doing all right at the beginning. He drifted off a little bit, I think, toward the middle, and other people seemed to be, it was interesting. Following the media reports on Twitter, you could tell that other members of the media were finding the proceedings a little difficult to follow. But what we learned today, we heard synopses of all these reports that were filed by members of the FBI based on information that James Bulger allegedly gave him. Now, the defense says he didn't really give him this. This stuff was all sort of concocted by the FBI. It's hard to make that case because it wasn't just John Connolly. There were a number of FBI agents who filed reports. And in these reports, it's actually amazing that Bulger got anything criminal done, because based on his file, he was always talking to the FBI about anything and everything. He was talking about, dishing dirt about people in South Boston. He was dishing dirt about the Mafia. Sometimes he was sort of paving the way, it seems, for crimes that he intended to commit. Remember John Callahan, the guy who was killed in connection with the whole World Highlight double murder affair? When Callahan was killed by John Martirano, we heard in Martirano's testimony that he spread the physical evidence around in a way that was supposed to implicate Cubans down in the Miami area. And we learned today that in a report that Bulger allegedly gave the FBI before Callahan was killed, he said something like, Callahan is really worried about ending up in Florida again, because word is that some real bad Cubans down there want to get him. So it's sort of like he was paving the way for this murder that Martirano and allegedly Bulger then went on to commit. Sometimes he was spreading bad information about criminal rivals of his, trying to sort of stir things up in a way that would make law enforcement look at them more closely. So it was important. It was just a little
maybe
dry.
John Morris tomorrow?
The defense hasn't even crossed James Marra from the DOJ. So he might start tomorrow, but it could, if the defense goes as slowly as the prosecution has been, we might not get Morris until Wednesday.
All right, tomorrow, Election Day, June 25th.
Can you feel
Gabriel
the excitement?
Gomez, Edward Markey. There is no excitement. No. I mean, they're talking about possibly a record low turnout, maybe as low as 11%. I mean, why?
Yeah, and if we have a day like today, this is one of those elections where it's supposed to be a lot of seniors voting.
Well, if they vote early, it's not a problem, or late.
If they vote early. But there was an interesting back and forth going on the web and in social media today. A guy from Blue Mass Group, the liberal website, Charlie Blandy, sort of pushed back against that column Yvonne Abraham of the Globe wrote over the weekend, where she was complaining about how boring the race was. And Blandy's argument on Blue Mass Group was basically, well, shame on the media if they haven't managed to get people excited about the race, because the issues that are at stake here are so big and so significant. Charlie has a point, but it's also incumbent on the candidates to get people excited about the race. I'm not sure how the media
could have done more.
I think maybe we could have. It's tough to sort of make a global statement about that, but I really think, and I was thinking this when we were watching them debate here at WGBH recently, compared with Scott Brown and Elizabeth Warren, both of whom, whatever you think of them personally and politically, each one is capable of exciting a certain cross-section of the Massachusetts electorate. And I just don't think that either Markey or Gomez are natural politicians who have that gift for getting people excited about what they might do if they're elected. Markey, you can make a very good argument, has been an effective legislator. You could argue that Gomez might be, if he went down there, that he'd be sort of a bridge between conservative Republicans and moderate Republicans. But neither one of them, stirs up any kind of passion. I don't think. I haven't felt it at any point in the campaign. I don't feel it heading into the home stretch. No, and it's a bummer, because that Brown-Warren race was epic.
It was. It's a great word. That was an epic race. All right. Adam Reilly, thanks so much. We'll see you. You're going to be out on the campaign trail tomorrow?
Yes, indeed.
Taking
it's a hot day.
Unscientific poll. All right, and a reminder to stay tuned to WGBH for continuing coverage of the James Whitey Bulger trial right here on Greater Boston, as well as on 89.7 WGBH Radio and at WGBHnews.org.